most recent release of Lady and the Tramp to Disney's live-action adaptation, it's time to rank all 15 of them from the worst to the best. Hello everyone, I hope you're having a cinematastic day. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Before we get into all 15 of my takes on these films, I'd love to hear yours down in comments below, and be sure to specify what you count as Disney live action and what is not. I personally don't count The Sorcerer's Apprentice as well as Pete's Dragon because they're just a little bit too much different, and they don't really count as part of the story of the Disney franchise in the live action adaptation. Those are just my personal takes, and you can have your own list because this is sort of speculative on what can really fit in that category. In that last place we have Dumbo, and this is unfortunate because I really appreciate the takes on Tim Burton's films and where he takes his films. But unfortunately, he's more of a director that puts a dark tone and dark twist into his film. So putting that into a Disney movie that's not necessarily dark did not quite work as well. And the way the story is portrayed and the jump cuts from humans being able to move from one place to the other in a matter of seconds when really it should have taken like a lot of minutes, it just doesn't quite work as well. And the way some of the story is portrayed isn't quite as sentimental as the original, and that's why I have to put it in last place. For 14 we have 102 Dalmatians, and while this film is kind of good and works decently because it has a lot of adorable little puppies, none of it really sticks with me. The story isn't quite as compelling as it focuses a little too much on Cruella de Vil. We already get the origin story of her and the puppies, but we don't get quite as much, and it doesn't work quite as well as a sequel to this film. The story for her isn't as compelling or as interesting as the original, or even as the original live action adaptation, and therefore I can't quite get a grip on where they're trying to take this film. Number 13 we have The Jungle Book from 1994, directed by Sommers, and he has a really good adaptation on where he's trying to take this film. And because it's the oldest of the live action adaptations, he has limited technology from the age he's producing it, and it's done in a way that's interesting enough as it is, and with the lack of technology thereof. But it doesn't quite have that compelling story because he can't make the animals talk. He can't quite make them have the personalities. But for what he has to handle with, it's done in an interesting way that's compelling enough with the characters and the story without the talking animals that doesn't quite make it feel like a Disney fictitious animation, but it does work well as a film in itself. Next up we have Disney's live action Lady and the Tramp, and while I find this film a little bit more compelling than the actual animated original, it doesn't quite live up, because while it does have the sentimental pleasing moments that I can really enjoy about it, and it felt like the story was more consistently flowing through as you watch the dogs grow up, and it goes along with the story in a little bit more compelling and interesting way. Where this film falls a little flat is where it tries to focus a little bit more on the humans for maybe the first 30 minutes or so, and therefore it loses its focus on a general goal of what the original was trying to do by having the focus be on the dogs, having the dogs have their own feelings, and seeing the emotions and how the dogs come to fall in love. Number 11 we have Alice in Wonderland, and while it brings the crazy and kookiness of the Alice in Wonderland mystical world of the Wonderland into real life, it doesn't quite have a super compelling story and doesn't quite adapt the story right in the right way. And some of the cast is really well done, and it's presented in the right way that makes it interesting. The way that they bring all of these crazy different things into real life, but overall it's just a good enough film as it is, and nothing really more than that. Coming down from my top 10, we have Alice Through the Looking Glass, and this was a sequel that I was not expected to enjoy more than original, and while it's not that much greater or super compelling than that one, than the original, I really enjoy it as it is, and the concept it tries to bring out with the concept of time and time as a person, and just the way they have to mess with time travel. I'm already really enjoying that because I really enjoy the exploring the time travel realm, and the way they take that is done in an interesting enough way that makes me really enjoy this film a bit more than the first. Coming in at number 9, we have Beauty and the Beast, and it does present itself in a way that's really compelling and interesting with what the story is trying to do, a classic love story between the Beauty and then the Beast, with all the town judging them and how the Beast is appreciated and acted as. And the way the acting is driven out is really done well, and this story has a few changes from the original that I'm not really too fond of, but overall it just portrays the film in a decent way that makes you smile just a little bit as much as the original. And in at number 8, we have 101 Dalmatians, and with this film, you get the perfect mix and balance of the 101 Dalmatians, the story that flows from the origin of them from their parents, and then we also get a little bit more from the humans and their sort of side of the story and how they relate as the parents and keepers of all of those Dalmatians. But we also get an excellent villain of Cruella de Vil, who's not over the top good, but it's done just enough, and you get the perfect balance of all of them that makes you understand all their characters. And while the story is more simple than anything and doesn't have a super compelling thing, I really enjoy cute, adorable puppies within movies, and therefore it makes it really compelling seeing those dogs and makes you smile and laugh at all of the goofy little moments you get with the side villains and how they act, because it's not supposed to be more realistic, and they bring the real life people in and act as the side villains that are just doing dumb decisions, just doing these kooky little things, but it's just done right because they're supposed to be acting that way. Then at number 7, we have Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and coming into this film, I wasn't overly compelled as to what I would expect from this film, because I thought the first film did justice as to what the concept of Maleficent, having sympathy for that character and having her sort of act as a good guy, although she's still the bad guy, makes for a really compelling story. But with this one, you get just that much more from it. She wants to stop Aurora from getting married and being and communicating with the humans, and so you get both sides of the humans wanting her to get married versus her who's not wanting her to get married and associated with the rest of the humans, because she just wants to be the godmother and she wants to be in control of her life. And you get to sort of understand both ones. And then when you get more of the Maleficent creatures, but Maleficent stands out as something more special, it's just really compelling what the concept of the story is trying to bring out, and it made me enjoy it that much more. And while there is a few moments that aren't super compelling, it's not super grasping my skin into bringing myself into the film. Overall, I could really enjoy it as it was and what it was trying to bring out. Number 6, we have Christopher Robin, and this is a film that's just really fun. It brings Winnie the Pooh into real life along with all of his furry friends, as well as Ewan McGregor as Christopher Robin himself, and having that adult life and expressing a different sort of theme that you would expect from a Winnie the Pooh movie. It's done in just the right way that brings the fun out of the work, and that's where it's really entertaining, and it has an interesting concept that it derives off of. And while the real world problems of work also brings the film back a little because it's not super compelling in the way they present the story, overall it's still done right the way they're trying to present it, and the theme is presented well, and just the adorable little creatures being brought into real life just makes you really and having a good time. Before I get into my top 5, I'd love to hear your comments down below. What did you think of all of these films, how they adapt to each other? Or if you haven't watched all of them, just let me know of the ones you watch, which is your favorite or least favorite, and everything in between. And I'd love to hear your take on it. And let's continue to my top 5. Number 5, we have Maleficent, and this is a interesting take on a film of taking Sleeping Beauty's story and having a more sympathetic take on Maleficent as a villain, because though she's still giving the curse on Aurora and having all these different things, she's doing it in a way that ends up making her sympathetic, because the fairies just can't really take care of her. And the fairies is really what draws this film back a little, because they're not super compelling. I never really bought into and was compelled by their little kiddish sort of voices and the way they sort of act and can't treat the baby right. But overall, I could really still enjoy the film as it was, and the way they took that concept of Sleeping Beauty and made Maleficent a little bit more of a good guy that's an anti-hero in the end. And number 4, we have Disney's live action Aladdin, and this is a really enjoyable film that really brings some magic out of the original into real life. And we get Will Smith as the genie, who can't quite perfect Robin Williams' performance in the animation, but because you're getting it in real life and because you can't quite match up to it, he's doing his own way of expressing his own personality in a way that's still really enjoyable and presents the character in just the right way in his own way. And adding in the characters of Jasmine and Aladdin just performed their job well done with the cast that they were given. And when they also added Jafar, his look doesn't quite fit the look, and I never really completely saw him as Jafar, so it was a little off-putting and didn't feel like the exact same character. But the story was presented in a way with slight changes that still really made me enjoy it, and the beautiful different effects and all of the songs, especially the speeches, really in the end made me speechless from this film. Moving on to my top 3, we have Cinderella, and this is a really enjoyable one, as it just made me smile from beginning to end, as it has a lot of different moments that carries a lot of different emotion that shoves it into you, and you can really enjoy where the concept of this story is taking. I haven't watched the original in quite a while, but it's really good the way they adapt this into real life, and Lily James is really a good character and cast for who is playing Cinderella, and the story that is driven within, and just overall everything feels like it's driven in the right manner, and the story is told in just the right way that makes me really enjoy it. Coming in at number 2, we have The Jungle Book, directed by Jon Favreau in 2016, and this brings the nature life out of Disney into live action, as we get the whole film basically in the jungle and having all of these sort of CGI sort of animals that are performing well with just a perfect voice casting of all of these different creatures. And then having Mowgli is done in a really well job, that the cinematography and the filming of this film is done in just the right way that makes it compelling and interesting, that really brings your attention into the film, and with the tension of the story of how it's presented. And that's what really makes you grab your attention and really make you feel what's going on and worried for the characters and enjoy every single character that is woven in the story. Coming in at number 1, we have Disney's live action, or should we say photorealistic, The Lion King. And this film almost quite lives up to the original, as they do play the safe route by retelling the story with very little changes, with slight added in scenes, but it's done in just the right way with beautiful cinematography, beautiful visuals, and the still compelling story that lives up from the original, because if it ain't broke, then you can't fix it. And therefore it's really done with the characters in just the right way, all of the CGI characters, while there's one still shot of Africa that's actually in real life. all of the CGI that's presented in this film is done in the right way, and it's believable. And though you can't quite get the expressions of all the animals that you get in the animation, it feels like it's just still being done in real life and filmed in real life because of how well it's filmed and just the right amount of CGI and their takes on how they're taking the film. And all of the characters woven in, just like the original, are really compelling, and I can really get behind the story, and you can really hate the villain in the right way and right manner that makes you hate the villain, but it's in a good way because of its devious plan, and therefore I have to put The Lion King at number one on my Disney's live action remakes. That was just my ranking, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on these movies down in comments below. How would you rank them from the worst to the best? And make sure to specify your own standards of what makes a live action movie or live action interpretation of the movie, because we might all have these different thoughts on what a Disney live action film is, but also how it fits into the movies themselves. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of these movies down below. What's the worst, what's the best, and everything in between. And be sure to like this video if you enjoyed this, and make sure to subscribe if you're new here, and also to be sure to check out some of these other videos on the right hand side of the screen, and I'll be back for more movie reviews, ranking, and more.